Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for your incredible support of these talented young musicians that are behind me. The orchestra that you see on stage is Symphony, our flagship ensemble in the Quad City Symphony Youth Ensembles. One of the things that we focus on is, solely, we perform professional level repertoire. And one of the things that we do along those lines is study a big bone romantic symphony throughout the year. We perform individual movements throughout the season, and at the end of the year, we play the entire symphony uninterrupted. The symphony for us this year is Dvorak's Symphony No. 6. Dvorak is a household name. Everybody knows Dvorak's connection to America and how he came and led one of the conservatories in New York, and he fell in love with Iowa. And of course, why wouldn't you? Iowa is a wonderful place. But this symphony, it's before his time in the United States. In fact, Dvorak met Johannes Brahms, who was a composer many years his senior, and he was completely mesmerized by Brahms's music. And the symphony that you're going to hear is sketched out in using the second symphony by Johannes Brahms as a model. In fact, the key is the same, is in D major, and there are many similarities between the two masterpieces. The first movement is in ternary rhythm, and just like the Brahms. But the third movement, which we're going to play also, is kind of Dvorak's hallmark print into the symphonic world. It's a furiant, which is a bohemian folk dance that Dvorak cultivated in many of his pieces, including chamber music, but also in this symphony. And what is characteristic about the furiant is that you take a group of 6 units and you divide it into 2 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 2. I know you didn't sign up for a math class today, but basically when you're listening to this piece, you can count along 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. It alternates a lot, and that's kind of like the feel of the entire furiant. So we're gonna play today the first and third movement of Antonin Dvorak's Symphony No. 6 in D major. When Dvorak came to the United States, one of the biggest lessons that he left was for American composers to look for inspiration within, to look at the music of African American spirituals, to look at dances that the slaves had, to look at music of Native Americans. And several decades later, a young composer from Arkansas emerged. Her name was Florence Price. And she was the first composer whose symphony was played by, she was the first African-American female composer whose symphony was played by a major symphony orchestra. That's the Chicago Symphony. And we're gonna play the third movement of that piece. Now, you just heard the third movement of Dvorak's symphony, which was a dance from Bohemia, from the Czech Republic today. So this symphony, Florence Price's symphony, the third movement is also a dance. It's the Juba dance, which was a dance that slaves danced. And what is particular about this is that they included all sorts of body percussion, because slaves were not allowed to have instruments, musical instruments with them. So they will have all sorts of body percussion gestures in order to have the sounds of West African drums. Here we have symphonic drums to emulate the sounds of those African drums, and they kind of keep the beat in the back of the orchestra. And then you'll hear the violins and virtually all the strings fiddling around this very lively dance tune. So this is Juba Dance from Florence Price Symphony No. 1.
all-state orchestra. The only one I really cared to hear. The rest of it was pretty.
As my colleague Brian was talking earlier, there are so many things to look forward to in the near future for the Quad City Symphony Youth Ensembles. And of course, this orchestra that is on stage is going on tour next year to perform in Berlin, Leipzig, Prague, and other places. And as a reminder, every senior that is on stage right now, current senior, future college freshman, is eligible to attend this tour. Let me repeat that. Every senior that is in our orchestra right now is eligible to go on tour with their youth orchestra next year. This class was taking away many things that people of their age get, but this is not going to be one of those things. We're going to go on tour. Another thing to look forward to next year, we are launching a third full orchestra in our system. The orchestra that you saw that opened the concert today, currently named Youth String Ensemble, will be transformed into a full orchestra, inviting students that play wind, brass, and percussion instruments to make it an even better experience than what they already have. We have an overwhelming demand for participation in our youth orchestra. So we are very excited and proud to launch this, and we are well on our way to become one of the most robust youth orchestra programs in the country. So thank you so much for your support. To finalize this concert, we will play The Giant Guitar by Uruguayan composer Miguel del Águila. The title of the piece suggests a guitar, and it opens with the harp and the strings playing the open strings of the guitar. E, A, D, G, D, no wait,
B.
G, B, E.
B.
I do know my guitar strings. Most days. So, the guitar is a symbol of Latin America. Every time one hears a guitar, is taken aback to think about Latin America and all the beautiful songs that the guitar normally accompanies. One genre of those songs are songs of protest. And this composer, Miguel del Águila, was thinking about that because he, as an immigrant himself, had to flee political oppression in Latin America. And this is political oppression in the 70s, where there was a military dictatorship. So this piece opens with that guitar sound in the harp and the strings, and eventually evolves into an Andean folk tune that is played by the flute and the piccolo, and then eventually other woodwind instruments will pick on this tune. As the piece progresses, you start hearing sneakily instruments in the brass section coming in and the percussion sections. All of a sudden, towards the end of the piece, the violent and aggressive sounds from the brass and the percussion overtake the folk tune of the orchestra. And eventually the piece ends very loudly, with a very potent sound, and is accompanied by, shall we say, special effects that we have prepared for you. So this is a very inspiring piece that, though is very rhythmically incisive and driving, it kind of has a twist, a plot twist to it. So this is The Giant Guitar by Uruguayan composer Miguel del Águila.
That again was the Quad City Youth Symphony Orchestra. The winter concert. We're going to be signing off here from the Bartlett Performing Arts Center on the campus of Moline High School. See you all later.